Welcome to Off the Shelf with Christine and Katie. Have you ever read a book or a classic and wondered maybe if the story was told from the perspective of one of the other characters in the book, how it may have changed what you thought? We have.
Yes.
And if you have, then this episode of Literary Retellings is for you.
So, as always, settle in, grab a cup of your favorite beverage, and enjoy these recommendations. And feel free to read them now or add them to your TBR for the future. And if there's any books you would like to recommend in the literary retelling genre, please put them in the comments below. And as always, if you wish to be notified of new videos, be sure to like and subscribe below.
Click the button.
And click the button.
But right now, we're going to get started with the book that won the 2024 National Book Award. Katie, you want to let us know what it is?
Yes, so this great book that I'm actually currently reading is James by Percival Everett. And this is in terms of Huckleberry Finn, for those who don't know. But this book is a retelling of Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, but from the perspective of Jim, an escaped slave, and is joined by Huck on his river journey north to freedom. And for those who saw the movie American Fiction, this is also that author. Very good recommendation.
Next up we have Julia by Sandra Newman. And this book is set in the dystopian country of Oceania, which is ruled by a totalitarian party led by Big Brother. And it is a retelling of 1984 by George Orwell, but it's told from the perspective of Julia, Winston Smith's lover.
I can't wait to read this. I've always loved Julia.
Yes.
Okay, and the next one we're going to recommend is something you might remember. This is Daisy by Lily Steinberg, and this is obviously from The Great Gatsby. And this novel tells the events of The Great Gatsby from the point of view of Daisy Buchanan. This story offers a fresh perspective and highlights many struggles women faced in this time period.
Now, another one that we have that's also another character from The Great Gatsby is Nick.
My favorite character.
By Michael Barris Smith. And this book tells the story of Nick Carraway, who was the narrator of the original in The Great Gatsby. And it tells of the events prior to the novel. Mm-hmm. So it begins with him as a soldier in World War I, his detours in Paris, and his time in New Orleans before his move to Long Island.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was always my favorite character.
I like him as a character too.
Okay, and the next one we're going to recommend is from a story that I have yet to read, but I hear is very good. This is The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow, and this is obviously Pride and Prejudice. And this book tells the story of Mary Bennet, the overlooked middle sister of the Bennet household. She's sad. In the original, does she not have a story of her own? She is there to be a temporary obstacle to her sister's happiness. Well, that's sad. I hope the story gives her some justice.
From what I understand, she gets a filled out life.
Oh, that's good.
Now, another one this could also possibly be for fans of Upstairs, Downstairs. It's called Longbourn by Joe Baker, and it's another Pride and Prejudice retelling. This historical fiction novel retells Pride and Prejudice from the viewpoint of the servants at Longbourn, which is the Bennet family home. So you get the perspective of the non-aristocrats.
That's nice.
Yeah. Then we also have Fair Rosaline by Natasha Solomons. This is a reimagining of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but from
Rosalind's perspective.
Yes. Who is this Capulet? She is the elusive beauty that Romeo is in love with before he meets Juliet. She is the reason he sneaks into the Capulet ball where he meets Juliet, and this is her story. And from what I understand, we find out Romeo is kind of not the best person skipping from Capulet to Capulet, so to speak.
That would actually interest me. I was so wondering about that. Okay, and our next recommendation from a story that I really love. This is March by Dale Dream Books, and this is a retelling of Little Women. And it is set during the American Civil War. This historical fiction novel tells the story of the absent father in Little Women. I was always wondering what he was up to. I know he was in the war, but you always want to know. And it follows Mr. March as he leaves the family to serve as a chaplain and tells of the challenges he faced in his return home after the war. It should be really interesting.
Yeah, I've read this. I really enjoyed it because you get to see, like you said, what was he doing the whole time?
Yeah.
His family was
like
dealing with his
things
absence
at home. Yeah.
Alrighty, next up we have
You might have heard of this one.
Wicked by Greg McGuire. And in case you didn't know, it is a retelling of The Wizard of Oz. This is a dark adult retelling
Yes.
of the story of the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. It is the story of Elphaba, a young girl with green skin who grows up to be the Wicked Witch of the West. Now, this book was adapted into the musical, and which became the movie, and
Yes.
that does return to the family-friendly nature of the original book series. But just so you know, this actual book
Is dark.
It's dark. It's not as light
please,
and fluffy.
yeah, please don't mistake. This is nothing like the Wicked play, the Wicked movie. It's definitely more dark.
Yeah.
But you
It's very good.
yes, but it's very good. Okay, and the next one we're going to recommend is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed, and obviously is a retelling of Macbeth. So raised to believe she is a witch and only useful as a wife, Rocio is married off to a Scottish lord, Macbeth. The book retells Shakespeare's Macbeth from the viewpoint of the woman who becomes Lady Macbeth.
I'm actually very interested
It
in
sounds
this one.
so interesting.
So,
Okay.
then we also have Circe by Madeline Miller, and this is kind of a little bit of a retelling of a part of the Odyssey. In the Odyssey, Circe is a sorceress and a minor goddess who transforms Odysseus' men into pigs. This novel tells the life of Circe, who was a daughter of the sun god Helios and a sea nymph. She was born without power or beauty. She gets bullied by her family and is banished to a remote island
jeez.
when she does discover her magical powers and then becomes a very powerful witch that we all know from the Odyssey.
Yes. Okay, and the next one we're going to recommend is one of me and Christine's favorite books. This is Hester by Laura Ligo Albanese. And for those who don't know, this is a retelling of The Scarlet Letter. And this is a reimagining of the life of Hester Prynne from Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. The story follows Isabel Gamble, a Scottish seamstress who moves to Salem, Massachusetts, because where else would you move, in the early 1800s, and who could have served Nathaniel Hawthorne's inspiration for Hester Prynne.
Next up, we have The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley. And it tells the tale of King Arthur's story, told from the viewpoint of the women who both supported and schemed against him. The story follows the lives of these women, including Morgane and Guinevere, as they navigate their childhoods and fulfill their destinies. This was one of my first fantasy books that I read, and
Oh, yeah?
I really enjoyed it, as well as all the prequels to it that talk
That's
about
cool.
the birth of Avalon and everything.
Yeah, I knew there was lore about those books.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, and the next one we're going to recommend, you might recognize the name. This is Mycroft Holmes by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Anna Waterhouse. It is obviously a retelling of Sherlock Holmes. This novel tells about the early life of Sherlock Holmes' older brother Mycroft and highlights a sibling rivalry between the two. I love their sibling rivalry. It is really one of the best.
Here's where it began.
Here's everything. So the story begins in an 1870 London and follows Mycroft, a rising star in the British government, as he investigates disturbing reports about his best friend's birthplace in Trinidad.
And from what I understand, this book also tells you how Mycroft's intelligence and sense of logic is actually superior to Sherlock's.
I always thought that
Yeah.
in many ways.
So
yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting
That
too.
is interesting. I always love Mycroft though. He's one of my favorites.
Yes, too. Then we have Grendel by John Gardner. And this retells part of the poem of Beowulf from the perspective of Grendel, a large bear-like monster who has spent the last 12 years locked in a war against a band of humans.
Okay, and sort of going back to what we mentioned earlier, our next recommendation is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and this is the retelling of the Iliad from the perspective of Patroclus, a young prince who becomes the sworn companion of Achilles, a demigod and the close son of King Peleus. The novel explores the close bond between the two men, their childhood friendships, and inevitably their deaths in the war.
Next up, we have Rhett Butler's People by Donald McGeigh. Now, this is only available as an electronic resource through our Hoopla app, so we don't unfortunately have the hard copy.
But if you want to access it, we'll leave that information in the description below.
And this is the story of Rhett Butler from Gone with the Wind, and it's told from obviously his perspective. It focuses on the people and events that shaped him into the man he became, and gives you a little bit more about why he was the person that he was
Yes.
before he met Scarlett.
Okay, and our last recommendation for today is called Ruth's Journey by Donald McCaig, and it is obviously a Gone with the Wind retelling. And this book tells the stories of Mammy, you might know her as Ruth, from the tragedy that left her as an orphan in Saint Domingue to her life as a slave in the American South before the Civil War.
And I understand that both of these books, they're by the same author, are endorsed by Margaret Mitchell Estate.
nice.
So they approved these
That's
being
good to
written.
know.
So those are some retellings of classics, but told from the viewpoint of a different character within the book that we found very interesting and enjoyable. If you know of any others, please let us know in the comments, because we always enjoy a good retelling.
Yes, there's always so many more we could have mentioned, but it would have made this video 2 hours long. So we hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any retellings that you like, please feel free, like Christine said, to include in the comments below.
Till next time, happy reading.
Take care.